the air, over the Persian Gulf, over Iraq, over Kuwait, and unfortunately with that many moving parts, accidents occasionally happen.
What do you think likely happened? What does it sound like to you?
Well, it sounds like exactly that it was an accident. It's under investigation now. It was 4:30 a.m., so it was hours of darkness. May have been flying on goggles, going into a very small landing platform aboard a ship out in the Persian Gulf, and unfortunately someone either miscommunicated or made a mistake, and ultimately it ended in a tragedy.
Yeah, and tell us about this chopper, the Sea King.
Well, the Sea King is actually a very old airframe. It was designed back in the 1950s, but has seen a lot of use with the Royal Navy, with the U.S. Navy for that matter. These two particular helicopters were the airborne early warning variety. They're used to, they have a radar on board and some other sophisticated gear to detect low-flying aircraft or other threats to the fleet out there in the Persian Gulf.
Major Jack Stradley with us throughout the morning. Thanks very much. In Baghdad, shock and awe as American forces unleashed hundreds of bombs and missiles over the Iraqi capital. National Geographic Explorer's Peter Arnett is in Baghdad, reporting exclusively on MSNBC. His account as the bombs fell around him.
Just like out of an action movie, but this is real. This is real. This is shock and awe, Tom. Back to you. I'll let you hear it, Tom. I'll let you. These explosions are continuing. The rest of the palace is being taken out, Tom, to the south of us. Other buildings, at least 40 cruise missiles have come in at this point. One building after another going down, Tom.
نعم شاكر. إذا
أرسلت النيران ما زالت تتصاعد من المواقع التي قصفت.
And so is our crew here, particularly our cameraman, Patrick Mark. Back to you, Tom.
على بعد
Okay, great.
هنا مصور هنا. كثافة نارية هائلة، الانفجارات تتواصل بتوقيت واحد وما زالت
We've been listening to Peter Arnett and his conversation with Tom Brokaw. We continue to see explosions. This should accelerate the negotiations. General Downing, what is this we're seeing? It's obviously conventional warheads, but...
Tom, those are some of the largest conventional explosions that I've seen.
The main palace building, the main edifice of Saddam Hussein, the palace with huge busts of him, 10 of them around the building, gone up totally in smoke. Just all gone away, Tom. Just blown apart. But wait a minute, this is still on.
Absolutely awesome display of military power. General, is your hunch that these are all cruise missiles, or do these belong to bombers? Are these all cruise missiles, or do these belong to bombers?
I think some of these may well be.
What are we doing, Charles? Excuse me if you're tuning in here. We have pictures of the main palace exploding. We're trying to feed that, but as we're doing that, further north along the Tigris in the region of the Information Ministry, a whole cluster of special operations buildings, also going up in smoke at this point. Huge explosion. This whole riverbank is being transformed as we watch it. Whole riverbank being transformed.
And that is National Geographic Explorer's Peter Arnett reporting for MSNBC in Baghdad. Now let's go to Central Command in Doha, Qatar for the latest on the helicopter collision over the Gulf, as well as the coalition push for Basra. MSNBC's David Schuster joins us live with all the details. Good morning again, David.
Chris, good morning. A very interesting situation has developed around Basra. Coalition forces have surrounded that city as the second largest city in Iraq, southeastern portion of Iraq. 2 Iraqi divisions have surrendered there, the 51st Mechanized and the 11th Division, but there is yet another division, the 3rd Brigade, the Iraqi 3rd Brigade, which is in the city of Basra, and at this point it has not surrendered. Negotiations are underway. We spoke this morning here on MSNBC with British spokesperson Al Lockwood. Here's part of what he had to say.
I believe that they're attempting to negotiate a peaceful surrender to Basra, which will reduce the loss of life to both civilians and military personnel on the Iraqi side. We hope very much this can be successfully completed. But I say again, I have no further picture on events at Basra at the moment, but we remain hopeful that there will be a peaceful conclusion.
Now, Captain Lockwood went on to say that if, in fact, the surrender is not accomplished, that coalition forces were prepared to go in and essentially take the city by force if necessary. It's not clear how much time they're going to give that Iraqi 3rd Brigade in order to surrender, but as you just heard, negotiations continue at this hour. Now, regarding the 2 Navy Sea Kings that collided, we're told that they collided within sight of the ship that they were leaving from. These were 2 helicopters whose mission was essentially to provide some surveillance, to watch for low-flying Iraqi aircraft over this particular part of the southeastern part of Iraq. They apparently collided within sight of their own ship. A search and rescue effort was launched immediately, but we're told that the crews, there was nothing that could be done. There were 6 British crew members on board these two helicopters, 3 on each, and the Pentagon tells us that there was 1 U.S. Navy officer who was acting as a liaison between the Americans and the British, who was also on board, and he was also killed. 7 people killed. And finally, Chris, we're told that by officials at the Pentagon that by the time General Tommy Franks has his briefing, which today will happen at 5 o'clock local time here, or 9 o'clock where you are, 9 o'clock in the morning, by the time he has that briefing, coalition forces will have fired more than 1,000 cruise missiles, both air-launched cruise missiles and cruise missiles launched from some of the ships in the Mediterranean. 1,000 cruise missiles, and to put that in perspective, during the entire Gulf War, that is 3 times as many cruise missiles as were fired during the entire length of the Persian Gulf War 12 years ago. Quite a display of firepower now, just 2 days into this war. Chris?
This has been remarkable to watch. Never before has America or the world been able to see so basically up close and personal the way a war is developing. On the other hand, this will be the first briefing by Tommy Franks. What is being said there about why it's taken till day 3?
Chris, it's a great question, and in fact, some of the British and Australian counterparts that General Franks has here at Central Command have not been very happy that it's taken this long. They had hoped to have a briefing yesterday. The reason that was given was because General Franks apparently did not want to undercut Secretary of Defense Donald Rumsfeld, who was briefing yesterday. We're also told that Franks was busy with what he was doing, and he was not prepared to give a briefing to the press, that he was too busy with the ongoing operations. But in any case, General Franks will be talking today. It's unclear how much he's going to be able to say. The main strategy here from U.S. Central Command has been something that you recall Michael Deaver, a former Reagan aide, once said that if you let me provide the pictures, I'll let you tell the story. And that has essentially been the strategy here at Central Command. They have the reporters who are embedded with various units all over Iraq. They're providing some very compelling pictures that are telling a great story. But as far as the overall picture here at U.S. Central Command, they've been very reluctant to provide some of the sort of details, the sort of the flanking maneuvers, where the divisions are going. And that's the same sort of reluctance we're expecting here from General Franks today. So it's unclear how much information we'll get out of him. But at the very least, he is coming here to talk a little bit about the operation so far. We expect an update perhaps on the negotiations over Basra, and also on the U.S. forces that are making their way towards Baghdad. Chris?
David Schuster at CENTCOM for us. Thank you very much. And we want to let you know that we are waiting for British Defense Secretary Geoffrey Hoon, who is going to be at London's Ministry of Defense. And we are going to be... Oh, it is up now? Do we have Jeff Hoon? Let's go live then to London's Ministry of Defense, and he is having a briefing now. Let's listen.
The cause of the accident is being investigated, and although this will be of no comfort to the families concerned, the crash is not believed to be the result of enemy action. I hope that you will understand why we cannot give further information until next of kin have been contacted. With regard to yesterday's CH-46 helicopter crash, I can confirm that the next of kin of the 8 men killed in the crash have now all been informed. At the request of the families, we will not release further details until later. Over the past 24 hours, you will have seen the military plan start to take shape on the ground. What we are looking to do is to achieve a series of effects to which the Iraqi regime simply cannot respond. We can do this whilst at the same time reducing the risk of civilian casualties. Indeed, we believe that this is the right way to minimise such risk. The coalition is now therefore working simultaneously along several lines of operation. First of all, through information operations, we are making clear to the Iraqi armed forces and to Iraq's civilian population the coalition's resolve to achieve our objectives: the removal of Saddam Hussein's regime and its weapons of mass destruction. You have seen pictures of the Iraqi armed forces responding to this and recognising that there is no need for them to fight for Saddam Hussein. Through ground manoeuvre, we are rapidly securing Iraqi territory. Again, as you will have seen from reporting overnight, the Iraqi 51st Division has stopped fighting. The US Army's 5th Corps has secured 2 bridges over the Euphrates. Admiral Boyce will say more about events on the ground in a moment. But last night was, of course, dominated by the air campaign, and in particular by attacks on targets in Baghdad. I want to say a little more about the underlying purpose of that campaign. It has sought to meet a number of objectives. As far as possible, we have been attempting to minimise the risk of the Iraqi regime using its weapons of mass destruction. First and foremost, this has required attacks on the regime's ability to communicate and exercise command and control over these weapons, as well as attacking potential delivery sites. A particular focus has therefore been on communications facilities, both within Baghdad and throughout Iraq. I want to show how we are aiming to inflict damage on the Iraqi regime itself, whilst leaving civilian infrastructure intact. This first slide shows a map of central Baghdad. Many of the key regime facilities are concentrated in the centre, along the west bank of the Tigris River. In the box, which in a moment will be highlighted in greater detail, you will be able to see the concentration of so-called presidential palaces and regime headquarters in one particular area of the city. All along the river bank is in effect an area closed to ordinary Iraqis, populated by senior figures in the regime from which they operate. And our attacks, therefore, have sought to send clear signals to that regime that it can no longer exercise its tyranny over the Iraqi people. By isolating regime leaders from security forces under their control, we're sending a very clear message, a message that they can no longer exercise control through the threat of force, a clear message as well to the ordinary people of Iraq that the days of this appalling regime will soon be over. Finally, in order to facilitate such attacks and enable close air support to our ground forces, it has been necessary to achieve air superiority by reducing the threat from the Iraqi integrated air defence systems. And again, I want to give you some general examples of the kinds of targets that we have been attacking. They include, as you see here, intelligence and security organisations, which are instrumental in the repression of the Iraqi people, command and control structures, for example, bunkers in the so-called presidential palaces, Iraqi military capability, for example, surface-to-surface weapons, and their integrated air defence system, radar and surface-to-air missiles. The targets have been selected for the effects that will be achieved, rather than to produce physical destruction for its own sake. In considering every pre-planned target, we go through a rigorous process of weighing the military advantage against the danger to civilian life and property. I personally oversee this process. Let me illustrate this point with 2 examples of the types of targets which our forces attacked last night. The main headquarters of the Iraqi intelligence service in Baghdad, a key part of the regime's intelligence and security network, was attacked last night with a United Kingdom Tomahawk missile fired from a British submarine. This was a carefully targeted strike which will have had significant effect on the ability of the Iraqi intelligence service to contribute to the internal repression carried out by Saddam Hussein's regime. Attacks on this and other Iraqi intelligence service facilities will remove from the Iraqi regime a key source of its power, reducing the potential threat to coalition forces and reducing its ability to terrorize the people of Iraq. We also carried out a successful attack against the main sector air defense bunker in Kirkuk. This operations center provides command and control for Iraqi Air Force interceptors and strategic surface-to-air missiles. By destroying or disrupting the operations center, we gain and maintain coalition airspace superiority, reducing the risk to our aircraft operating in the area. I was asked at yesterday's press conference how we resolve the apparent dichotomy between our commitment to the use of minimum force and the overwhelming nature of the air campaign. I hope that what I have said today has addressed this issue for you. The use of overwhelming force during last night's attacks was not designed to turn Iraq into a wasteland. Rather, it was aimed at inflicting damage on the Iraqi regime whilst leaving civilian infrastructure as intact as possible. As last night's dramatic television coverage showed, the lights stayed on in Baghdad, but the instruments of tyranny are collapsing. Mike?
Thank you, Secretary of State. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Well, as you've heard from the Secretary of State, coalition forces have continued to make significant progress in all environments. But before I give you some details about our campaign so far, I'd like once again to echo the words of the Secretary of State and send my deep condolences to the families of the servicemen who lost their lives last night in that mid-air collision between two of our helicopters in the Gulf. Well, we did have a huge increase in activity in the scale of our coalition effort last night, and this tightening of the screw on Saddam's regime included the high-intensity attacks on targets in Baghdad and Kirkuk and other areas along the lines the Secretary of State has described. And in terms of scale, I can tell you that as of early today, coalition air forces have flown some 3,000 plus sorties and delivered a very large package of precision weapons, including the Tomahawk missiles, which are fired by our own submarines. Now, let me give you some more detail about other operations. Some of you might have expected there to have been some sort of pause to coalition progress, but this has not been the case. In the Basra area, the Iraqi 51st Division